Welcome to Let's Talk, the half hour where we join various guests from around our community. Now, let's talk.
Welcome to the program, listeners. Tyler Friel with you on WISR 680 AM 107.5 FM. This is Let's Talk, the half hour where we sit down and chat with various organizations, businesses, nonprofits, and more in our area. And today we welcome back to the show Quality Life Services and Julia Toth, who joins us inside the studio. Julia, always good to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And we also have here with us on behalf of Three Rivers Hospice, we have Aaron Perrine and Terry Ross, who are here on behalf of Three Rivers Hospice. Nice to meet you. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
So we're going to get into the conversation of what ties in quality life services with Three Rivers Hospice, and then also just talking about hospice care in general today on the program. But as always, we like to remind you, hey, we are going to be around for the next 30 minutes, so if you can't stick around for that half hour, we do have you covered. You can go online to WISR680.com, look under our programs page. There you'll be able to find today's conversation of Let's Talk with Quality Life Services. We're also available on Spotify as well, so if you're a Spotify listener, you can find us there. You can also find us on the mobile app. You can find us on your smart speaker, basically anywhere where you can find audio. You can find us here on the Let's Talk program. But once again, we are chatting with Quality Life Services and Three Rivers Hospice. And Julia, always like to give you the first opening word about the Quality Life Services rundown and what it is that QLS is all about.
Sure. We are a family-owned business with 10 skilled nursing facilities, 7 personal care homes, and under our umbrella, we have Family Home Health and Three Rivers Hospice. So we cover different counties, about 7 counties, and most local to here is Butler County, Armstrong County, Westmoreland, Mercer, Lawrence. So we were in the area, and we go a little more south into Fayette and north to Cambria. I'm directionally challenged, but or it snows a lot more than it does here in Cambria County. And all, we have different facilities there, and then our home health and hospice can go into wherever the patient deems their home. So when it comes to home health, it could be their physical home, it could be a personal care home. When it's hospice, it can be a home, personal care home, skilled nursing facility, wherever that loved one calls home. That's where we can see patients. And Family Home Health and Three Rivers Hospice has been its own entity for a very long time. They're an established home health and hospice organization in PA, and then they became part of the QLS family umbrella, I'd say a little over 10 years ago now.
And so as you talk about that spectrum of care, again, I think for folks who might just have any questions about QLS, that there is a wide variety of services that are offered. And so if you're thinking, hey, this might be something that is under the Quality Life Services umbrella, it just makes sense to pick up the phone and call then.
Pick up the phone. You can go to our website at qualitylifeservices.com, and it covers every branch of our services that we offer, and locations and insurances. Pretty much any question you have is on our website. There is an interactive little message box also if you have questions that come right to the marketing email, and we can help answer those questions, or you could call our local number 724-431-0770 and ask your question. We'll direct you through.
Aaron Perrine also here with Three Rivers Hospice. So just to kind of piggyback off of that, Aaron, if you could give us a little bit of a rundown of what it is that Three Rivers Hospice does and maybe the areas that they cover as well.
So Three Rivers Hospice, we support, technically they say that we support patients. The definition is who have 6 months or less to live. So we have nurses and aides and social workers and chaplains and all of us that support the patient. We also have what I do is bereavement. We support the families and the patient both before death and after death.
And Terry, your role as a chaplain with Three Rivers Hospice?
Yes.
If you could talk about, because we want to focus a lot on the bereavement side of it and the spiritual side of it today. So Terry, I'll start with you because obviously, this is a very emotional time for not only the person who might be in the hospice situation, but the families that are there. What do you find in those first initial conversations that you have in a role as a chaplain with those who are entering hospice care and kind of where they're at emotionally?
Most of the people I see have already had some understanding of faith, and so I'm typically not going in blind. I already have a little bit of understanding kind of where they are. So what I try to do is really try to make a connection with the patient. If the family member's there, unfortunately, oftentimes I don't get to meet the families. I spend more time with the patient himself. But I just take time to kind of get to know them. to find out, assess where they are, what are they feeling, what do they think, what's their understanding from faith standpoint, how can I help them, how can I assist them. I think a lot of times people at that point are just fearful. Like most of us, I think we're fearful of the unknown, and until they come to some understanding. And so I kind of try to help them come to grips with what they're feeling, what they're thinking, what their expectations are. Sometimes it's dealing with people who really don't understand what they're facing and understand the hospice is 6 months or left, and it's 6 months or less. It's very difficult for them sometimes to come to grips to that's the diagnosis. And so I just try to provide that spiritual stability for them, presence, spend time with them, kind of assess where they are.
The fear of death, I mean, it feels like that's a common human emotion.
Sure.
But for most of us, we might just have that in a broad sense. For these folks, as you mentioned, in a lot of those situations, it's 6 months or less.
It's very real.
What do you see in these people to finally confront it with a timeline? Because I'm sure you've had this experience time and time again, and what they're feeling to actually now see that perhaps the end of their life here on earth is near.
Mm-hmm. I use kind of a little example. It's kind of a little corny, but it works. I tell them about if I attach the string to one side of the room and a string to the other side of the room and put a pin on the one end, that's life here on the earth. The rest of that is eternity. So I give a little perspective, and then I talked about the fact that eternity. I tell them about eternity, what it's like, what the Bible says about it, so they understand there's some spiritual dynamics there that they're not going to imply. So I try to turn their attitude about eternity as being something positive. So I talk about Christ, the fact that he rose from the dead, he had a body. So that says to me there's a life after, and there's a body, and there's a place to live. And so that kind of helps them to get perspective. So I just try to take the fear out of that. I tell them it's a passing from one dimension to another, that it's not the end of life. It is just passing from one place to another. And that usually helps them to kind of process where they are.
How long does that, I'm sure it's different from person to person, but that processing for people, how long can it take?
I guess it depends on the person,
Yeah.
obviously, and what their understanding and their background is, what their experience has been. For some, it's immediate, and for others, it takes several opportunities. One gentleman in particular that I spent time with was very fearful of death, very fearful of God. And so I began to share with him, and in that moment, he just broke down and started to cry. And for the first time in his life, he had just this epiphany of awakening to, wow, it's not what I thought. And so for him, it was almost instantaneous. For others, it's multiple times of conversation until it begins to really sink in. And that comes along with them coming to grips in reality with the fact that they are going to pass away.
Aaron, on the bereavement coordinating side, do you get to work with the families then a lot?
Yes.
Okay. So obviously Terry's kind of taking a look at it from the patient standpoint, but in terms of families, this also, I mean, obviously would be a very challenging time for them to come to grips with, because they're looking at it from a different perspective of they're losing their loved one here on earth. Is there a common theme you see from families when hospice care first starts as to what they're feeling emotionally?
I think people obviously are stressed and worried and anxious. And so our goal is to help, relieve some of that anxiety and that stress. We provide that emotional support, give them someone to talk to, realize that a lot of their feelings are real and it's okay to talk about these feelings. We consider a lot of my work and bereavement is done after someone passes away, but we also provide what we call pre-bereavement support, which helps them with that anticipatory grief, that what you talk about, those feelings that they have as they watch their loved one transition and go through that process.
Well, and then from the physical side of it, I mean, in hospice care, at least anecdotally from what, Julia's told me and talking to others, is that the family does get to see, obviously their loved one passing away is going to be challenged no matter what, but in hospice care, it kind of avoids, especially if you get to that right setting, avoids the hospital setting and the setting where we might not feel super comfortable with. Do you find that families respond at least a little bit more favorably to that maybe in-home hospice care setting where there's a little bit more of a comfort level and not the the scariness of a hospital setting?
Absolutely. People would love to be in their own home with their favorite chair or their dog or, their loved ones who can all be present around them and not sitting in a hospital room. Even if their home is a nursing home, that's still their home and their belongings and their comfort. And even, counseling, when I talk to them after a death too, I go into their own home and see them where they are most comfortable.
You talk about the pre-bereavement stage, and it's important in the process. Does everybody go with to take advantage of the pre-bereavement services, or does that just depend on family to family?
It depends on family to family, but some people utilize it more than others. I think those who do use it say how helpful it is. And then too, I get to know them before their loved one dies. And so they're comfortable with me afterwards as well. But not everyone chooses to use it, but a lot do.
What are the advantages and why would you tell folks to use pre-bereavement to its fullest extent?
I think it's such an emotional time and you feel like you are the only one going through this. And sometimes just talking to someone and feeling that you're not so alone, that you have someone to talk to, someone to educate you on some of the dying process, the feelings that they're having, and just offer general tips can really be helpful. And then, like I mentioned, it's that relationship. We establish a relationship early on. And so when I counsel them after someone dies, they already know me. They're already comfortable with me.
Julia, what's the partnership been like between Quality Life Services and Three Rivers Hospice? You kind of hear Aaron and Terry detail, because it is obviously a very, very emotional time for families. Why do you guys believe that this is a great partnership and you two work in concert together?
They provide great care. QLS prides themselves on great care in the facility setting. I mean, they're champions of hospice and home health, so it was kind of a no-brainer for that partnership, and it's nice as a continuum of care. We offer those clinical services for when you need them, but when treatment or your disease state is going to progress and there's no true treatment, it's great to say we have our own home health and hospice. We know the staff, we know the clinicians that work there, and they can help take care of your loved one for this next stage of their care need, and it's just a great partnership. We have our program, Don't Stop Dreaming, which is our nonprofit that we utilize with our hospice patients, which is another added bonus that kind of work together, that if you are on hospice with Three Rivers and you reside at home or another facility or a QLS facility, you get to have a dream honored. And I think that's very wonderful to have for families to just give back to their loved one and kind of sharing their legacy while they're going through that.
Chatting with Julia Toth of Quality Life Services, also Aaron Perrine and Terry Ross of Three Rivers Hospice. Terry, one of the things that I've been illuminated by in regards to hospice care was the first experience I had with it was my grandfather was in hospice care for like 2 or 3 days and passed away. It was just a real quick turnaround time. And then I always reference the Jimmy Carter hospice care because he went into hospice care and was there for like a year plus. So, I mean, I know we talked about the 6-month timeline, but do you find that maybe there is this misnomer of hospice care when you talk with folks where they feel like it might be more immediate than, as you mentioned, 6 months can be a long time for some folks?
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the challenges is obviously none of us know when that day is going to pass. And I've seen people spend an entire year in hospice, and we've had to discharge them because they weren't declining, and live another year. And so I kind of help people to see that none of us really know that time and that day. That's being prepared is important. But and it is scary for a lot of people when they think, hey, it's 6 months. What does that look like for me? But our concern, it really is what's the best way we can support them during that time? How can we give them the best quality of care? And I hear Paula say this all the time. We're helping to live while they're dying, not die while they're living. And to help them to find that there's some quality of life while they are still in that condition. And why are they here? Because I get that asked all the time. Why am I still here? Why am I still here? Because many of them, in society, people are living longer and longer. So a lot of people are really, by the time they get to hospice, are really struggling with, I just don't like the quality of my life. So I try to help them find some perspective. What does it mean for them? Even though they maybe can't get out of bed, maybe they're not able to even feed themselves. but what does life look like for them, and I help them to kind of process through that.
I'm curious from the chaplain standpoint too, how you work with folks who are there emotionally, because I figure that might be a very difficult thing mentally for them. Is that, maybe it was just a year or two ago where I was up moving around and I could do these things. Now I can't do them anymore. That's, obviously a huge struggle for a lot of folks. Do you work with them just to help break through and try to find a comfort level to where they are at physically compared to maybe where they were in the past?
Obviously, I think the challenge is every person is unique and different, and until you have time to talk to them, I really try to make a connection with the person, value who they are. I love people. I love their story. So if I can get them to talk about their life, to find perspective in their life, talk about their family. Everybody loves to talk about their family or talk about their pets or whatever. So I really try to help them just find joy in that moment. I'm not sure I'm answering your question. Does that?
No, I think because, again, just with everything that you have there, where I'm at physically, where I'm at mentally, dealing with the reality of death, I'm sure, there's got to be some conversations to try to bring it back. I think, like you said, to have a good perspective of where life was.
Yeah, I always say to them, we're all going to die at some point. Nobody's getting off this rock any other way. So are we prepared for that, and what does that look like? And to make it not scary for them, just to help them understand that it is not the end, it is just a transition. So for every person, it's different. There are people I just sit with and hold their hand, and other people that I pray with people, sing with people, try to relate to something they've experienced, trying to help them see that they had value to their family. A lot of them, by the time they get to hospice, have been very isolated from their family, very separated. And so I know Aaron and other staff, the joy for us is just being able to spend time with them.
For those who might have lost their way with faith, or I'm sure you've run into this instance a number of times where, they haven't been as religious as maybe they had been earlier and now are confronted with the end of their life. What are those conversations like? Again, I know everybody's unique, but I'm sure you've had these instances where they're interested in exploring their faith as they get to the end of their life.
I kind of come from this perspective. It doesn't matter what faith they've been part of. I don't think God cares about the labels on the door. I talk about the fact that God loves them. I emphasize that immensely because I think that's one of the misnomers that they think that because they haven't lived right or done the right thing, that somehow God's mad at them or angry with them and they have to somehow earn that. And I explain to them that that's not God at all. God is absolutely in love with them, so much so that he sent his son to die for them, to give his life for them. So I help them to see that this is not God punishing them. This is not God being ticked and mad. This is God saying, I love you in the midst of that. I'm reminded of Psalm 23. David said, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. We're all walking through that valley, but God says, I will be with you. And so I kind of help them to see that God is really for them, not against them, and that God cares for them genuinely. I use the analogy of there's a scripture that says that God has written their name in the palm of his hand and he rejoices over them with singing. And I believe that's God's desire for every individual. And so that's kind of where I come from. I don't push a faith. I don't push a particular denomination. I really want them to see that there's a God who absolutely loves them and cares for them.
Aaron, from the family side of it, when a loved one does pass, I'm sure you get all these different ways of how a family handles that, or even family members inside that family and how they handle the death of a loved one. What are maybe some of the reactions that you've seen? I don't want to say that surprised you, but that how one family member might be handling their loved one's death compared to others. How do you deal with that as a bereavement coordinator?
I think it's important that you mention that because you do see that everyone grieves differently. And I tell people sometimes, one parent dies and there's 6 kids and all 6 of them will grieve so differently. Mm-hmm. And I try to tell them and educate them that everyone grieves differently and not to judge each other's grief. Sometimes I think that you grieve the way you live your life. If you are an emotional person who cries, you cry through your grief. But if you're not a crier, you may not cry through your grief. And so the person who is crying should not think that the person who's not crying is not grieving. Some people like to talk through their grief. Some people like to be more do something. They're the doers of their grief. They find that they are the ones that maybe build the monument or have the garden outside that remembers their loved one. They're more the doers, and that's what they do with their grief.
When you're working through the grieving process, I know everybody talks about the different stages of it. Does everybody go through the same stage, or does it kind of piggyback off of what you said, where it's just different for everybody?
It's so different for everybody. And some people see these stages and they think that they go in order and they're linear. Yes. And it's not at all. And I think one of the biggest misconceptions also is that grief has, a time frame. And some people have a different time frame in their head, or people in their life tell them a time frame where they think that, my grief is over, which even that word over is a hard word, but I'll be done grieving after a month, or some think 6 months, or some think a year. And that's not how grief works. I get many phone calls, after a year, right after the year of someone's anniversary, they say, I thought I'd feel magically all better, right after this year mark. And that's not how it works either.
Why do you think that is? And not to get into the science behind it, but we just had a family reunion. And it's funny, you start to flip through these photos and you see all these people that used to be here and aren't here, and then it just churns up emotions and memories. Why do you think grief can just last? I don't want to say forever, but it just feels like sometimes it sticks around.
Because it's the person you loved, and that love and that loneliness and that missing doesn't go away. And I think what I try to help people with is how to, find joy, find happiness, and, find new love without you still continue to miss that person and have them be a big part of your life, but you can find happiness and joy.
Terry, do you think the religious connection and this faith connection helps loved ones when they're dealing with grief?
Oh, absolutely. I think everybody at that point in their life considers what is going to happen? Where do I go? And I think everybody takes time. When you have hours laying in a bed and you're ill and you can't do anything, I think you have opportunities to consider your life and to think about what the future might look like. I have not found anybody in the almost 3 years that I've been doing this that has rejected those conversations. Even if they've not been religious any part of their life, they at that point feel like I really need to know, where am I? What do I feel? What's going on? And so I love what I do. I started this because I lost my mom to Alzheimer's and dementia in 2023. And so it made me aware of how people handle life, what they're dealing with in those stages. And so it's given me a great sense of compassion to help people during that time.
And Aaron, I'll kind of follow up on what Terry just said there, because again, you talk about, working in hospice care does not come across the same way as working, as a radio host. It does seem to have a level of, it comes across as a emotionally charged job. So what could you say as to why you got into this work, but also the rest of the team at Three Rivers Hospice, and why they feel, I'm assuming it almost feels like a calling for you to help do this. So why do this? Why be a part of hospice care?
So I wanted to do this job when I was 12 years old. My 16-year-old brother died of cancer, and he was on hospice. And after he died, I had a bereavement counselor who, came to me, supported me, helped me sort out my feelings at that age. And when I was that young, I said, I want to be like her when I grow up. And so I went to graduate school, I got my master's in counseling, and I've been doing bereavement counseling ever since. I've been with Three Rivers Hospice for 25 years now. And so I find that this is what I love. And I think when you say a calling, a lot of our nurses explain that definition. It's a much different job than working in a hospital setting, but nurses especially feel called to do this job.
You talk about, you lost your brother when you were 12, and there are different, it might be a grandparent, a parent, brother or sister or things like that. But continuing on that family dynamic talk, when we're talking about those who are grieving, we're talking about those who might be young children, who might be adults, who might be older individuals who've lost a loved one. the stages and maybe some of the programs that you have that might help kids or help elderly or the adults, how do you try to take a look at that wide age of demographics and help those folks grieve?
You're right, and it's different for everybody. And when I counsel, I do a lot of grief work with children. And when you counsel children, you can't just sit and look and talk to them for an hour about their feelings. So I have got grief games and grief activities, and we do crafts and things. And it's amazing how well a kid will talk about their feelings when you're playing a game. But we also, our support is for, people who've lost a parent or lost a spouse. I counsel everybody, including like friends, people who've lost a lifetime friend, we support. Sometimes I find that someone who is in a nursing home and their roommate dies and they need support because the person who's been laying in the bed beside them for 3 years is no longer there. So you have to kind of tailor your supports differently, but we do support a variety of ages and different people.
Now, when it comes to eligibility for bereavement counseling, how does that work?
Anybody is eligible. Technically we counsel the family, friends, anybody of that patient, but we're also available to support the community. For example, I have support groups that is open to anybody. I have a support group at the Newcastle Library that our families attend, but also people in the community, and the library advertises that.
Julia, I mean, when folks and families are thinking about moving to hospice care, I feel like there might be this level of guilt associated if the family makes that move, or the patient who's in it right now struggling to say, all right, I'm going to hospice care. What would be your advice, and maybe some of the example you've seen from families who have ultimately decided to go the route of hospice and how that's had an impact on them?
First, I would recommend them talking to maybe Aaron or someone at Three Rivers Hospice to see what that hospice benefit is. Ask a nurse, ask a clinician, like, what does this mean when you come into my home and take care of my loved one? Kind of just go through the steps. Granted, everyone's different, but like the very basic steps. We admit, we look at your medication. If you don't need to take some of these meds, we'll stop that. We'll get you a hospital bed. We'll get you a wheel walker, whatever you need to be more comfortable, and kind of maybe go from that step. A lot of family I see in the personal care and skilled nursing side is no one can take care of mom or dad like I can. That comes with a lot of stress, especially if you work full-time, part-time, have young children. You become that robotic caregiver mentality, and you forget, like, that's my mom or that's my dad, and I want to feel the feelings I have, or I want to grieve a certain way or prepare myself for it, but my tasks are at hand and that's where my focus is. So there is a lot of guilt that comes with allowing others to care for your family. So a lot of conversations. We have social workers on staff at buildings. So if someone's in our nursing home and needs to transition to hospice, they could talk with one of the social workers. I just fully support it, living in this field that we live in and the healthcare realm, but ask questions, call local providers, see if you can talk to someone who's, day-to-day is in there, but it's okay to feel guilty. That's all right. We'll get you through it.
And Aaron, when you talk with family members, after their loved one passes away and they talk about their experience with hospice, what generally do they say? Do they kind of look back on it and go, well, this was probably the right call?
Absolutely. And one of the things I hear is, I wish I would have done it sooner, or I wish I'd known about hospice sooner. Too often, by the time they come on hospice, maybe they're on for 5 days, but that support is great. And they say, wow, I wish I had that for months. But the people who are on it longer, they almost think of the nurses as family members because they invite them into their home and they care for their loved ones like they do. And the greatest feedback is, I wish I had done it sooner.
And Terry, to that point, is because you do work a lot with the patients, as the hospice care goes on, as your conversations happen with the patient and they receive that care, what's been your experience in talking to those patients about receiving hospice care? Do they kind of come around and go, this is kind of the best way for me to live my life?
Well, getting back to what you mentioned earlier, a lot of people come into hospice with misconceptions about what it's about. And there's a lot of fear. And, everybody's had different experiences with hospice at some point, or many people have. Try to help them to understand that it's really about helping to provide the best care possible. It's a very difficult decision for families. Because it is considering the whole end-of-life situation. But as Judith said, we become family to them. I'm doing a funeral this week for a family that, even though they went to a church and had a pastor, I became closer to the person that was passing away than their own church connection. So we become family, become a relation related to them, and they love the fact that they have visits on a weekly basis, daily basis sometimes, and so it really helps them to just walk through life with knowing that there's going to be somebody there with them, even though it's such a huge challenge for them.
Julia, if people want to begin this conversation or learn more, what are the best ways to do that?
Best way would be to call Three Rivers Hospice or directly. You could find their contact information on our website, qualitylifeservices.com, or if you're local to the Butler area and just want to call our main office number at 724-431-0770, we'll get you right to someone in the hospice building.
Julia Toth of Quality Life Services, Aaron Perrine, and Terry Ross of Three Rivers Hospice. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming in. Really
Thank you,
appreciate
Tyler.
it.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Hey, if you missed any of our program, as always, you can find it online. WISR680.com is the place to take care of that. We're also available on Spotify as well. I'm Tyler Frill saying so long for now. You've been listening to Let's Talk on WISR.
The information and opinions shared on this program are solely those of our guests and do not necessarily represent those of WISR, the Butler County Radio Network, or its staff and employees.